The tin can heater hack from World War II that kept soldiers alive when everything else failed. Let's start with something every seasoned historian understands, but not everyone truly feels. The front lines of World War II were shaped as much by frostbite as by artillery. Cold decided battles. Cold slowed men. Cold stole lives long before enemy fire ever reached them. And in that brutal freeze, survival sometimes depended on a scrap of metal no bigger than a ration tin. A tiny battlefield miracle. A tin can heater. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't issued officially. Yet ask veterans who marched through the Arden winter or dug into the high ridges of the Pacific, and you'll hear the same tone in their voice. A kind of reverence. Because when everything else froze, this little contraption didn't. It worked. It kept hands warm enough to hold rifles. It kept spirits from buckling. It was not a gimmick. It was a quiet triumph of human ingenuity, born from scarcity, desperation, and stubborn willpower. And here's the wild part. This forgotten trick is still useful today. Whether you're a reenactor, a survivalist, a bushcraft lover, or a student of fieldcraft history, the tin can heater is one of the most practical lessons you can take right out of the 1940s and into the real world. So let's break it down. No fluff, no mythology, just pure function, straight from the trenches. So, how did soldiers turn empty ration cans into portable heat sources? Well, the whole magic of the tin can heater came from its simplicity. Soldiers didn't have the luxury of gear catalogues or, fancy insulated stoves. What they did have were empty ration tins. Everything from meat cans to soup tins to the larger oil cans that rolled around motor pools. Metal was durable. It was easy to repurpose. And honestly, perfect for focusing heat into a tight, controlled flame. Inside that metal shell, the method really varied by theatre and whatever the troops could scrounge. In Europe, paraffin scraps from field candles were honestly like gold. Bits of wax from ration kits, waterproofing bricks, or even leftover grease were hoarded like treasure. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, where natural materials were everywhere but fuel was unpredictable, men twisted strips of cloth into wicks and soaked them in kerosene, lantern oil, or whatever vehicle fuel they could sneak away. The cardboard method, well, it became the most universal because it was safe, steady, and burned clean. Soldiers would coil corrugated cardboard into a tight roll and wedge it into the can. Then they'd pour melted wax or fuel over it, letting the cardboard act as a sort of wick network. The cardboard didn't actually fuel the flame. It regulated it. The result? A controlled burner that wouldn't flare up like a Molotov. The sand and fuel method was another favourite, especially among motor pool crews and engineers. Fine sand, soaked in fuel, produced a slower, longer-lasting burn, perfect for warming cramped command posts or, drying soaked boots after slogging through alpine snow. These weren't improvised toys. They were engineered survival tools, crafted from whatever the battlefield offered. Why the tin can heater mattered far more than documentaries admit. Most mainstream history skips this part, but the heater wasn't just about comfort. It had serious tactical advantages. For one, the flame was low profile. Not much light, not much smoke. Soldiers could heat rations or hands without drawing sniper fire. Out on the Arden line, troops knew better than to strike big fires. A tin can heater was just enough to keep a man functional without giving away a whole position. Fuel efficiency mattered too. A properly packed can could burn for an hour on just a few ounces of fuel. In campaigns like the Frozen Vosges or the bitter weeks after the Battle of the Bulge, those hours weren't just helpful, they were life-saving. And then there was maintenance. In the Pacific Highlands and New Guinea ridges, humidity chewed through weapons. Tin can heaters were regularly used to dry rifles, socks and boots. Less moisture meant fewer malfunctions, fewer cases of trench foot, and fewer ruined nights on watch. In squad tents across Europe, several heaters running together could bump the temperature by a few degrees. That doesn't sound like much, but ask any mountain soldier. Those few degrees could mean the difference between waking up shivering and waking up at all. How to recreate a historically accurate, fully functional World War II tin can heater today. If you're into survival prep, bushcraft or historical reenactment, this one is straightforward and extremely practical. First, start with a clean metal can. Then, roll a strip of corrugated cardboard as tightly as you can until it fits into the can like a plug. Next, slowly pour melted wax, kerosene or lamp oil over it, letting it soak thoroughly. And when you light the centre, you'll see the same steady, disciplined flame soldiers once huddled around in foxholes from Italy to Okinawa. If you want the long burn version, the one motor pool unit swore by, fill the can halfway with sand. Add fuel just until the sand is moist, not swimming. This burns slower, steadier, and is ideal for drying gloves, warming a shelter corner, or keeping one pot cooking without constant attention. And here's where the history meets your modern toolkit. These setups are still useful. They fit in emergency kits. They work in blackout conditions. They're perfect for minimalist camping. And unlike many modern gimmicks, these tricks were stress-tested under the worst circumstances imaginable. Why this forgotten piece of World War II fieldcraft still matters? Because it reveals something essential about the soldiers who fought that war. Not just their courage, but their creativity, their ability to turn trash into lifelines, their understanding that staying warm was sometimes the first step in staying alive. And if you're part of this channel, HistoryHQ, you get why that matters. We don't study history to romanticize it. We study it to understand how humans adapted, survived and innovated under pressures most of us will never know firsthand. These little pieces of knowledge deserve to live on, not as trivia, but as real, usable techniques. If you want more deep-cut World War II fieldcraft, forgotten soldier ingenuity, and real survival methods pulled straight from battlefield experience, make sure you subscribe to HistoryHQ and share this video with fellow enthusiasts. The more we spread this knowledge, the more we keep these powerful stories alive.